These are the 7 levels of Call of Duty zombie maps, from maps that felt like recycled multiplayer arenas painted darker, to god-tier experiences that made you forget you'd been stuck on round 37 for 3 hours. We're not ranking by balance or difficulty, we're ranking by legacy impact, how much each map shaped the very soul of COD zombies. Alright, power's on, mystery box is ready, let's pack-a-punch these levels and get into it. Level 1, Dumpster Fire, Duron, Fang, and Terra Maledicta, Vanguard era. Every franchise has that low point where fans collectively go, what happened? For zombies, that moment was Vanguard, when Treyarch's crown jewel got shoved into Sledgehammer's half-finished engine and came out looking like a mobile beta. Duron Fang tried to reinvent zombies as an open-objective roguelite, kind of like Elon pretending to reinvent Twitter when all he did was rename it to X. You had portals instead of rounds, recycled multiplayer maps dipped in darkness, and covenants that felt like NFT loot boxes nobody cared for. Next, Terra Maledicta, a sequel so unwanted it launched with a green Instagram filter and called it New Content. It added a boss fight that looked like a Fortnite knockoff gone wrong and lore that no one could follow because everyone had already uninstalled the game. Both maps share the same crimes, no atmosphere, no stakes, no reason to replay. Players went in expecting undead mayhem and got fetch quests that made bus repairs look like peak game design. And even the Easter egg, the supposed heart of zombies, was just touch glowing things until the game ends. These maps broke the trust with the fans. They reminded everyone that without direction, even Treyarch could miss every headshot. But hey, at least Chord effects look kinda cool, right? Level 2, the Flawed favorites, Bus Depot, Farm, Tagged or Toten. Alright, we've escaped the Vanguard trenches. Now we're in that weird middle ground of maps that weren't unplayable, but you still wouldn't flex about surviving round 20 on them. Starting with Bus Depot, the map that somehow made you miss the bus in transit and then punished you for it. No perks, no pack-a-punch, no sense of purpose, just you, lava pits, and regret. It's like Treyarch asked, what if we took transit, deleted the bus, and called it minimalist game design? Then there's Farm, basically Bus Depot with lighting. This map felt like Richthofen sold the pack-a-punch for livestock. All you get is a fridge, a barn, and the faint smell of 100% USDA certified cow manure, and still charge 5,000 points for it. Farm was that one friend who insists they're different but listens to the same Drake playlist every day. And finally, Tagged or Toten, the forgotten epilogue to an epic saga. The map tried to close a decade-long story but somehow felt like watching the credits of a movie you didn't see. Beautiful scenery, sure, some neat lore payoffs, but emotionally, flatline, like Keanu Reeves in every John Wick sequel. Even the Easter egg, while heartfelt, was slower than a Joe Biden speech, not quite an epic grand finale. It was the end of Ether, but not with a bang, more like a sigh. But at least they tried. Bus Depot and Farm experimented with stripped-down survival. Tagged or Toten tied up lore threads from a decade of chaos, but in their own flawed way, they all helped zombies figure out what not to do. Level 3, the Chaotic Experiments. 5, Ascension, Shadows of Evil. By this level, zombies had figured something out. Players didn't just want to survive, they wanted to feel something. To panic, to clutch, to laugh when it all went wrong, and enter the Chaos era, where every map felt like a mad science experiment with varying levels of genius and insanity. Let's start with 5. The Pentagon, Cold War paranoia, and for some reason you're John F. Kennedy shooting zombies next to Fidel Castro. That's not a setup, that's actual canon. 5 didn't care about logic, it cared about vibe. Hallways tighter than Walter White's blue sky, teleporters sending you halfway across the map, and a Pentagon thief that made you want to launch your controller into your TV. But even with all that chaos, it worked. Because 5 had identity. It was absurd, political, claustrophobic, and somehow perfect for late-night runs with friends. And then came Ascension, the map that practically defined the early golden age, bigger, louder. Black and white intros that faded into color when you hit the power. It introduced monkeys that stole your perks, which everyone hated, and perks like Stamin' Up and PhD Flopper, which everyone loved. This was the moment zombies stopped being a side mode and started becoming a main event. It taught players how to train, how to move, how to think ahead, and most importantly, how to rage when a monkey took your juggernog. And then, years later, Shadows of Evil arrived, the art film of zombies. This map divided players like no other before. Some saw it as pretentious, others a masterpiece. You had noir lighting, jazz ambiance, tentacle monsters, and an Easter egg that made you question your GPA. But it was bold. It took zombies to a cinematic level, a playable Lovecraft movie with a mobster cast and one of the best soundtracks in COD history. These maps were experiments, messy, chaotic, ambitious. They didn't all hit bullseye, but every miss still moved zombies forward. They taught Treyarch what players could handle and what they craved. Level 4, the fan favorites. Kino der Toten, Riese. Welcome to the Icon era, the maps that defined an entire generation of late-night runs, Mountain Dew hangovers, and controller-throwing friendships. At this level, zombies stopped being a side experiment and became culture. Let's start with Kino der Toten, the blueprint of all mainstream zombie experiences. Every player who picked up Black Ops 1 booted this map first. No, it wasn't revolutionary. What mattered was how perfectly tuned it was. A looping layout that taught every player how to train. A stage that turned power-ups into theater lights. And a soundtrack, 115, that still gives players goosebumps 15 years later. People say it's overrated, but that's missing the point. Kino isn't just a map, it's the reason millions fell in love with zombies in the first place. And then there's Riese, or the giant for the BO3 crowd. This is where zombies truly evolved. The Pack-a-Punch machine made its debut here, and the catwalk became sacred ground. It balanced everything. Traps, teleports, tight corridors, open loops. Riese felt alive, like a real research facility gone to hell. It was the moment when zombies learned rhythm. Early panic, mid-game mastery, late-round insanity. Even today, veterans load into the Giant just to see how far they can go, knowing they were going to get owned. These are the maps that stick in your memory, the ones that made even casuals say, yeah, I remember that one. They're not the most complex, not the most ambitious, but they hit the sweet spot between chaos and comfort. Level 5, the Obsession Era, Origins der Eisendrache, Revelations. At this level, zombies was a lifestyle instead of just a mode. Players stopped chasing high rounds, they chased meaning. Every light flicker, every radio transmission, every cipher, it all mattered. Welcome to Origins, the map that broke the internet before that was even a thing. Trench mud, ancient robots, and a version of Richthofen that looked like he just walked out of a World War I Comic-Con. And it was the first time zombies felt epic. He tried to survive and uncovering history simultaneously. 4 elemental staffs, a full-blown cutscene ending. And that piano theme, Archangel, hit the OG fans harder than Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Origins was chaos wrapped in genius, confusing, beautiful, and impossible to forget. Then came Der Eisendrache, often called the perfect map. It took everything Origins did and made it smoother, faster, more cinematic. No mud, no confusion. Just clean, modern, and god-tier pacing. You had bows instead of staffs, dragons that ate zombies like a stack of IHOP pancakes, and one of the most emotional boss fights in the series. That moment when Richthofen ends Dempsey's life to set things right, pure storytelling gold. Der Eisendrache was a statement. Zombies could be cinematic and replayable, heartbreaking and hype. And then there's Revelations, the everything bagel of zombies. Every corner of the map was a memory lane. Kino, Origins, Mob, Der Eisendrache, mashed together into one dreamlike fever trip. For some, it was overstuffed, like a turducken of nostalgia stuffed inside another turducken. For others, it was the greatest fan service in gaming history. It tied together 8 years of chaos, lore, and screaming YouTubers theorizing about purple apothecons. It was far from perfect, but it was the victory lap this saga deserved. This era turned players into detectives. Zombies went from simple survival to spiritual mythology. The community studied these maps like it was their SAT. Origins was the thesis, Der Eisendrache was the refinement, Revelations was the graduation, Level 6, the Adrenaline Era, Gorod Krovi, Blood of the Dead. By this level, Zombies mode became pure spectacle. Explosions, dragons, lightning bows, robot soldiers, jetpacks, time travel, all before the end of Round 1. It felt less like a horror mode and more like an apocalypse-themed rock concert. Let's start with Gorod Krovi, the map that looked like James Cameron directed a war movie inside a vodka factory. You're dropped into Stalingrad, there's a dragon breathing fire on your face, and somehow it works. It's brutal, cinematic, and relentless. Every step feels like a highlight reel. Valkyrie drones, giant mechs, zombie soldiers with lasers. It's chaos, but it's controlled chaos. And the Easter egg? A gauntlet of mechanical bosses and heartbreaking dialogue that ends with Nikolai confronting himself. It's pure Cold War poetry. If Cold War poetry had flamethrowers. And then we have Blood of the Dead. The remade, reimagined, re-traumatizing version of Mob. It promised nostalgia and delivered emotional damage. Gone was the clean rhythm of Alcatraz. In its place, confusion, corridors, and betrayal. But when you finally reach that final cutscene, when Richthofen collapses after saving the others, it hit harder than any jump scare ever could. These maps were chaos turned cinematic. Every match was a movie trailer, every round a crescendo. But with that intensity came a cost. The storylines tangled, the maps got denser, and the community started asking why every Easter egg felt like doing homework for a lore degree they didn't sign up for. Level 7, the God Tier Legacy. We've reached the top, the level where zombies stopped being a mode and became myth. 2 maps stand above the rest, twin monuments to ambition and imagination. Moon and Mob of the Dead. Let's start with Moon, the ending no one saw coming. It begins quietly. A teleporter hum, a strange desert base, a hint of something off. Then boom, you're on the moon. Low gravity, astronaut zombies, and the first ever real story twist in the series. The Easter egg doesn't just reward you with perks, it actually ends the world. The moment you hit that final button and nuke the Earth, it changed gaming. It was cinematic storytelling through gameplay. No cutscene, no voiceover. Just you pressing the button that kills billions. Moon took what was once a survival mode and made it a story of consequence. And standing beside Moon at the top of the pyramid is Mob of the Dead, the map that proved zombies could tell a tragedy. Set in Alcatraz, it was claustrophobic, eerie, and poetic. 4 gangsters trying to escape purgatory, doomed to repeat the same cycle forever. The afterlife mechanic was genius. Die, revive, repeat. Gameplay that mirrored the story itself. Every detail dripped with symbolism, the blood-stained hallways, the looping plane escapes, the haunting whisper of breaking the cycle. It captured what zombies really was, the beautiful misery of doing the same thing again, hoping for a different ending. Except that by the end of Hour 4, you realized the real purgatory was replaying the Easter egg with that one friend who couldn't stay alive for 10 seconds. Mob of the Dead was grim, haunting, and somehow hilarious, like The Sopranos, except everyone just respawns after getting whacked. Where Moon ended the world with a button press, Mob ended it with regret. One blew everything up, the other made you feel the weight of why. Together they became the emotional core of zombies, destruction and redemption, tragedy, and legend. So, did I get it right and pack a punch? Or did I anger the ether gods with my levels? Comment below, because if you've survived this long, you've earned your juggernog. And hey, if Black Ops 7 Zombies is your vibe, I'd love to hear about that too.